Yeah, since I knew that there were people coming who haven't been there before, and I was sort of asked if I would help introduce some maybe meditation techniques that people can use in times of difficulty and that sort of thing. And so I agreed I would do that. So first, thank you all for being here this evening. It's really nice to join you from 1,250 miles away and see so many of you there. It's nice to see that community forming in that way. And I imagine that many, if not all of you, have some worry and anxiety and anger, confusion, and things like that in your heart right now. Kind of gobsmacked myself. That's a Britishism that just seems to be like the right word to use about the way I feel. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that, and I'll guide a couple of meditation and contemplative practices for you. By the way, I'm recording this so that I can put the talk and the meditation online later. That way you don't have to try to remember what I say. And it'll go up on the Volusia Buddhist Fellowship YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed to that, you'll see it when it goes live. So to start, let's just take a minute or two. This is something that you can do just to center yourself wherever you are, whatever's going on. When you start feeling like you're dealing with a lot of stress. So just kind of look inward. You can close your eyes if you want to, or just kind of look at the floor or the back of the chair in front of you, something like that. And take a few deep breaths. And now shift your attention to something coming in through your senses. It can be the sound of my voice in normal day-to-day life. It might be the sound of a bird chirping or the wind in the trees. It could be the feel of your feet on the floor. Anything coming in through the senses right now. That centers you in the here and now. So orient yourself in space and time. Where is here for you right now? When is now? And now think about your purpose. What gives you meaning? What is your life about? You don't have to come up with a big answer. Just see what comes up in your mind. And then, is there something that you could be doing right now that's productive? If nothing else, you can always smile. So take another deep breath, and as you let it out, you can open your eyes and return to the room. So when we pay attention deliberately to something that's going on in the here and now, it tends to stop whatever rumination is going on. So anytime you're feeling kind of stressed like that, you can. Hey, I'm gonna mute you guys. while I'm talking. Sorry. So anytime you're feeling stressed, worried, anxious, anything like that, if you just kind of bring yourself into the present moment by focusing on something coming in through the eyes, ears, nose, touch, taste, then that'll tend to shift you out of that. It really activates a whole different neural network, and there are people who understand how to explain that. I'm not one of those people, but it makes you feel better, and it's sort of like hitting a reset button, so you're not just spinning around in your anxiety or whatever. So, by the way, somebody messaged me and said that they were really looking forward to hearing me talk about politics tonight. I suspect you've heard a lot about politics lately. You can probably figure out, what party is listed on my voter's registration card. I might talk about politics some other time and some other place, but not tonight, probably never here. So, I think it's good for your spiritual community to be a safe place and a place free from the sort of divisiveness that goes on in political discourse. So, it's funny, I've been digging into some theology and philosophy from other religious traditions lately. I'm spending a lot of time at a UU church in Massachusetts, and so it's kind of rekindled my interest in some of the theologians that I studied when I was young and that kind of thing. And so I remembered someone who had had a big effect on me when I was doing religious studies at community college there in Florida, Paul Tillich. And it happened that in the last week or so, I came across a quote from one of his sermons called "You Were Accepted." And he starts out talking about, with a quote from Romans. By the way, I have absolutely no credentials when it comes to talking about Christianity or Judaism or anything like that. I see these things as a Buddhist. Anyway, it says that the law came into being, and so people would understand right and wrong better, and suddenly there was a lot more wrongdoing going on, and the Romans 5:20, I think, says, "But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound." Which is kind of interesting, the more wrongdoing there was, the more grace there was, the more forgiveness there was, and that sort of thing, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, he says that the word sin might be better translated as separation. And he explains that separation, as we experience it, takes three forms. There's among individual lives. There's a separation of an individual from his or her true self, which is something that we talk a lot about in the Zen side of Buddhism, becoming aware of your true self. And a separation of all humans from what he called the ground of being. And that's a term that he used to describe the divine. He even talked about it as the God that transcends God. Again, it was pretty nice Zen way of looking at stuff. I think Tillich would have made a really good Buddhist. His idea of the ground of being is a lot like some things you encounter in the Buddhist teachings, like Bright Dawn's focus on the way of oneness, the awakenings that people experience. But here's the part that I wanted to share with you. And he's talking about times like these, when things can seem really dark. And sometimes when we just sit with our feelings and open ourselves to what's going on with us in the present, we have an experience, something like perceiving a voice saying this: "You are accepted. You are accepted, accepted by that which is greater than you, and the name of which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now. Perhaps you'll find it later. Do not try to do anything now. Perhaps later you will do much. Do not seek for anything. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted." And he says that at that moment, the moment of this perception of being accepted, that grace conquers separation and reconciliation bridges the gulf of estrangement. Namu Abita Butsu. So why did I tell you that? Well, whoever you are, you, Buddhist, Christian, humanist, whatever label you stick on that, you're accepted. Regardless of your gender, your sexual identity, your political affiliation, your age, your physical abilities or non-abilities, your skin tone, the style of your hair or the lack of your hair, whatever you can imagine that people separate themselves from one another, whatever, you are accepted. You might even say you're loved. I love you. Shawnee and Jim and Jen love you. You can tell because they open the doors every Wednesday and make offerings on your behalf and things like that. And I suspect you love one another. You're not just accepted at Volusia Buddhist Fellowship meetings or on our YouTube channel either. There's a broader spiritual community at work in the world that understands the value of goodness, of wisdom, of compassion. And you're a member in that community too. Even the earth itself accepts you. You can tell because you didn't get spat into space. It's the moment you were born or thrust into hell or something like that. So when we start to feel overwhelmed by grief, by sadness, anger, worry, those kinds of things, we can take a moment just to be aware of our acceptedness. One of my teachers, Greg Creech, many of you have heard me talk about him before, he puts it this way, that examine life outside the boundaries of your suffering. Yes, there's suffering going on. What else is happening? Our society may very well go to, well, I won't use the word I was thinking, but we may look at our neighbors and wonder how the heck they could have bought into greed, hatred, and delusion and all that kind of thing. But if we look around, we'll see that something that we might call the universe, Amida Buddha, God, the ocean of oneness, the ground of being, is supporting us. It might be in little ways like making sure there's food on the shelves in the grocery store, or helping us clean up the yard after a storm, or where I live, raking leaves off the trail and shoveling snow off the sidewalk, things like that. The sun continues to shine on our faces and on the waves when we go to the beach, regardless of what happens in the darkness around us. So here's your first couple of steps for dealing with dark times. First, turn on your inner light. Shine the light of your acceptedness into your heart. Then let your awareness show you that the world in this moment is a pretty good place to be. Now here's the next thing, and this is a little bit more down to earth. Stop worrying. Now look, I know that's a tall order, and it's the nature of human beings to go to the place in the brain where worry lives and drag it out and, and use it. And you don't need to reject that, but let the worry go. Nothing good was ever caused by worry, none that I know of anyway. So when you find yourself worrying, turn away from the thing that you think might happen and toward the thing that you can do if there's something you can do. Remember there was a question in the meditation, in the little centering exercise we did. Is there something productive I can do? Worrying is not productive. So where can I put that energy that might do some good? Don't try to feel like everything's going to be okay. Maybe it will, maybe part of it won't. Try to develop equanimity. That's a word we use in Buddhism that means balance or evenness of mind. And some people mistakenly think that it means everything is the same, nothing is good or bad, no preferences, and so on. But that's not realistic. We don't want to be robotic in life. We want to experience life, and that means it being around, and present. When we experience difficulties, when we experience sadness and things like that. So equanimity is more like surfing. You need waves to surf. Keep your board steady and ride them, not just being tossed around by them, or so I'm told. I never successfully learned how to surf. Lived in Florida for 50 years, over 50 years, never could figure out how to surf, but that's what I'm told. That's the way it looks. But I do manage to maintain some emotional equanimity at least much of the time. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't care or that I don't think that people who do bad things shouldn't be held accountable or anything like that. Equanimity just starts with acceptance, accepting what's going on right now instead of whatever should I'm clinging to. That's another thing that's pretty unproductive, the word should. We can build walls out of shoulds, make castles out of shoulds, and it won't protect us from the reality of what is. So accept what's going on and then see, is there something I can do? There was an 8th century Buddhist philosopher named Shantideva, and he put it something like this. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if there's something we can do about a situation, what's the use in being despondent about it? And if there's nothing we can do about the situation, what's the use in being despondent about it? And it's a good point. Also, you'll be a lot more effective when you do try to do things about situations that you find unjust, that are causing suffering for people, if you accept what's going on and aren't making yourself miserable with shoulds and worries. I'll add too that if you're going to be an activist for social justice, work really hard to do that from a position of compassion, of love, not out of hate. In the first section of the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, hatred is never conquered by hatred. Only by non-hatred is hatred conquered. This is law eternal. The Buddha didn't say this is law eternal very often. So you can tell he really meant that. So seek justice, but do it out of love, not out of hate. I know some of you are pretty active, and that's a good thing. But just keep setting aside your anger. Look at those things that you love. The people, environmental resources, animals, all that stuff that you want to protect. And then see, what if I put my energy there in doing that? Well, that's more than enough of me preaching right now. I'd like for us to meditate together. And I'm going to guide you through a little work with equanimity. So if you can just get yourself into a comfortable meditation posture. Doesn't mean you have to sit any particular way, but you want to be sitting up straight in your chair, not slumping. Let your back support you. Your head sort of balanced between your shoulders. You pull your head back slightly. So one of my teachers says, bring your ears over your shoulders. That's kind of a nice way of putting it. You can close your eyes if you like, or as I said before, just kind of rest them somewhere. You don't want to be looking around. And I'm going to invite the bell 3 times. So just settle your attention on your breath. You don't have to breathe any special way, although it helps to take a few deep breaths. And one thing you can do is you can sort of breathe in from the bottom up. So let your belly expand, and then the area around your diaphragm, and then your chest. And as you breathe out, let your chest contract, and then your diaphragm, and then your belly. Nice, long, comfortable breaths. And then just let your breath settle into a natural rhythm, whatever that is for you. You don't have to breathe any special way, but be aware of your breath. And bring your attention to your heart. I don't mean the organ, but the center of your chest, area behind your sternum. And stay with your breath. Feel your awareness there. And as you exhale, just let this thought ride silently on your breath, just thinking it as if it comes out of your heart. May I be happy. May I be happy. And this means right now, in this moment, with this breath, may I be happy. May I be free from animosity. If there's any ill will riding on your awareness right now, just let that go. If angry thoughts arise while we're meditating, just let it pass by. Be angry later if you really want to, but for now, give yourself freedom from ill will. May I be free from stress and affliction. When things come into our attention, we tend to want to hang on to them if we like them, or push them away if we don't like them. We really don't need to cling to anything or reject anything. You can let things pass by, or things like physical sensations and sounds from outside and stuff like that, just let them be. Whatever comes to mind, let it go or let it be. And if we don't nurture stress, we don't create affliction. If we don't nurture resentment, we don't create hatred. If we don't nurture a worry, we don't create anxiety. And so on. And may I look after myself with ease. Just noticing what comes up, calmly returning to my purpose, my object of meditation, my true life. May all beings be happy. And you can imagine sending that thought to friends, family members. May they be happy. Anyone you've harmed, anyone that's problematic for you, and out to your whole community. May everyone be happy. Whatever living beings there are, birds and squirrels and dogs and cats and all of those things, may they all be happy. And now just sort of lightly rest your attention on your breath. And just be aware of what comes up in your mind. Notice what thoughts arise when you're not trying to do anything particular. Don't push any away. Just let them pass by. With practice, we learn that thoughts and feelings are just thoughts and feelings. They're phenomena that come and go. We don't need to let them hook us. We don't need to demand that we don't feel a certain way or think certain thoughts. Just let them arise and then pass away. And be aware that everything rises and falls based on causes and conditions. Everything that rises, everything that falls, does so based on causes and conditions. Waves on the ocean, there's water, the moon's gravity, wind. Those conditions create the rise and fall of waves. In the same way, our lives, the lives of others, societies, institutions, all those things rise and fall due to conditions that exist and actions that occurred in the past. Notice that phenomenon happening in your mind and body. Even our thoughts are subject to cause and condition. Once a thought arises, we can't unthink it, but we can choose what to do with it. We can't change the past. The past is gone. So why dwell in resentment? We can't control the future. The future isn't here yet. So why dwell in worry? What we do have is this moment right here. This moment right here. This moment. Use this moment skillfully, carefully. Time passes by, opportunities are lost. Do what you can to awaken to your highest purpose, whatever that means to you. Even if times are hard, don't squander this opportunity. Keep going. And if you'd like, you can think of these phrases for yourself. As you exhale, may I be balanced and at ease. May I be balanced and at ease. The bell will sound twice to end the meditation. When you hear it the first time, if you'd like, you can bring your hands together in front of your heart. This represents wisdom and compassion coming together in one practice, the way two hands come together in one gesture. And when you hear it the second time, if you'd like, you can just bow slightly and take a moment just to be here, be with this group of people that are working together to make a better world, supporting one another in your spiritual practice.